Hello, everyone, and welcome to this professional development session on how to develop independent learning skills and mastery of a skill. I'm John Beale, Research in Residence at Eton College, based at the Tonedal Centre for Innovation and Research and Learning. Today's session has three objectives. Firstly, to provide a framework for developing independent learning skills and mastery of a skill or over an area of knowledge, leading towards expertise. Secondly, to offer practical strategies for developing students' independent learning skills. And thirdly, to offer practical strategies that students can use to develop mastery of skills or over areas of knowledge. How do you reach expertise over a task or skill? Or, in other words, how much and what kind of practice is required to gain expertise of a skill or in a specific area of a discipline? Now, the concept of expertise is complex and multifaceted, and here I don't mean it in the broad sense of becoming an expert in an entire field, for example, becoming a political expert or an expert on the works of Shakespeare. I mean it in the more specific sense of reaching expertise over a particular task or skill, where expertise denotes the stage where a person gains such a high level of mastery that engaging in that skill or completing that task becomes effortless. We sometimes say that experts make a skill look easy. This is because they've mastered the skill to the point where they can do it effortlessly. To gain expertise in this sense, we often need to overlearn. Now, this use of the term overlearn is not pejorative. We can use the term overlearn pejoratively. For example, we might see that someone has overlearned by going over things of which they already possess a high level of knowledge and understanding in the same ways they previously studied them, rather than learning something new or trying to understand what they already know in new ways. But the term overlearning also has a positive sense, where it denotes an important step in the process towards gaining expertise of a skill. On several occasions in his influential article, Principles of Instruction, the late educational psychologist Barrett Rosenshine uses this term, overlearning. To overlearn is to learn or practice something beyond the point of what Rosenshine calls initial mastery, such that recalling your existing knowledge of a particular area is automatic and your skills are fluent. By automatic, Rosenshine refers to the stage in the learning process where learning and practice have been undertaken such that recalling what we've learned has become effortless. And Rosenshine argues that overlearning is required for any skill to become automatic. Evidence from cognitive science suggests that when we reach the point of automaticity, engaging in the task or skill that has become automatic takes up less of our working memory, that area of our memory where we process information. Rosenshine writes, quote, "When material is overlearned, it can be recalled automatically and doesn't take up any space in working memory," end quote. Learning to the point where a skill becomes automatic enables a learner to recall information from long-term memory effortlessly without using much working memory. Our working memory is small. By using less of it to recall our prior learning, we put ourselves in a better position to learn new things and engage in problem solving in the area where we've made recalling knowledge automatic and our skills fluent. So, how much overlearning is required to reach automaticity? Rosenshine doesn't give a specific amount. He says that, quote, "The development of expertise requires thousands of hours of practice," end quote. Well, how many thousands? Rosenshine doesn't say, but he emphasizes the following. This is on the PowerPoint slide. Quote, "The best way to become an expert is through practice. Thousands of hours of practice. The more the practice, the better the performance," end quote. To identify a specific amount, it's helpful to look at the influential work of the author Malcolm Gladwell. His well-known 10,000 hour rule holds that 10,000 hours of what's called deliberate practice are required to reach top-level performance ability. and I'll discuss this concept of deliberate practice in a moment. Whatever the amount, the consensus from the research is that to master a skill, extensive practice is required, and the best way, as Rosensheim puts it, is through thousands of hours of practice. But not just any type of practice will yield expertise. Bad practice can be counterproductive, causing you to become worse at a skill. Indeed, by practicing bad habits, you just get better at doing something badly. Effective practice needs to be of a particular kind, deliberate. Deliberate practice is a systematic method of effortful, highly focused, goal-oriented practice which aims at improving performance. It is sometimes described as intentional engagement in skill-based learning. The concept of deliberate practice was coined and developed in the 1970s by K. Anders Ericsson, professor of psychology at Florida State University and a renowned expert on the psychology of expertise and performance. In a 2007 article in the Harvard Business Review on deliberate practice and expertise, Ericsson, along with Michael Pritula and Edward Coakley, write the following, which is included on this slide. Quote, "It will take you at least a decade to achieve expertise, and you will need to invest that time wisely by engaging in deliberate practice. Practice that focuses on tasks beyond your current level of competence and comfort. You will need a well-informed coach, not only to guide you through deliberate practice, but also to help you learn how to coach yourself." And in a BBC article on deliberate practice published last year, William Part reports that Gladwell's 10,000-hour rule is based upon Ericsson's notion of deliberate practice. And the research in one of Ericsson's first papers on deliberate practice suggests that roughly 10 years is required to reach the level of an elite performer. Now, that suggestion is based on the estimate that 10 years of practice equates to around 10,000 hours, if that is, the learner undertakes the kind of practice routine that aims towards elite performance. That is, the kind undertaken by professional athletes. Deliberate practice. So what does deliberate practice involve exactly? Well, we could sum it up as involving the following areas. First of all, purpose. Aim to improve your performance beyond its current level. Second, specificity. Break down the task to be achieved or the skill to be gained into smaller tasks or practices, each of which constitutes a step along the path towards expertise. Third, identification. Identify areas where specific improvements in practice are needed. Fourth, focus. Concentrate and avoid distractions. Become fully absorbed in the task or skill you're aiming to master. Fifth, systematization. Focus on the areas where improvement is needed as part of the procedure towards expertise. Sixth, repetition. Regularly rehearse areas in need of improvement until mastery in a specific goal is achieved before moving to the next goal. Seventh, resilience. As a consequence of trying to do things you cannot yet do, deliberate practice will involve regular failure and so will require bouncing back to persevere towards expertise. Eighth, feedback. You need regular feedback, ideally from an expert, on where improvement is needed and how improvement should be made. Ninth, self-reflection. You should be regularly self-assessing your own performance and reflecting on areas where improvement is needed. 10th, effort. Deliberate practice involves sustained effort because you're outside your comfort zone. If it feels easy, little effort is required. Time. Expertise requires thousands of hours of deliberate practice, so a lot of time. And finally, coaching. As we saw in the quotes from Ericsson, Pritula, and Coakley, expertise as a result of deliberate practice requires a well-informed coach to guide you through deliberate practice and help you learn how to coach yourself. Okay, so those are some of the ways in which to engage in deliberate practice to be engaging in the kind of practice which is most effective towards reaching expertise. Now, to help you better understand what exactly deliberate practice is, we can contrast it with non-deliberate practice. Non-deliberate practice might involve some or all of the following: mindlessly repeating tasks rather than having focused attention on the task in which you're engaged, a feeling of ease due to a lack of effort, which could imply that automaticity has already been attained, staying within your comfort zone rather than trying to stretch yourself, a lack of specific goals or purposes, or practicing what you already know or understand very well rather than areas that are in need of improvement. What's a good method for deliberate practice? Well, one effective method is known as the Pomodoro technique, and this is one that you can use effectively for deliberately practicing, if you like, some tasks and skills. This is a time management technique where a task is broken down into shorter tasks spaced over timed intervals, undertaken for specific blocks of time with short breaks in between. Each block is called a Pomodoro, the Italian word for tomato, after the tomato-shaped kitchen timer. This is because such a timer was said to have been used by the creator of the technique in its development, the entrepreneur, developer, and author Francesco Cirillo. Cirillo developed the technique while he was a university student looking for ways to work more productively. The technique is analogous to approaching a task via short sprints with breaks rather than going for a long distance run. So what exactly does the Pomodoro technique involve? Well, we could break it down into 6 stages. Stage 1, identify a Pomodoro. Identify a specific task to be completed. A task could also be practicing a skill. So for example, I might have a specific task in mind, such as proofread the article I need to submit next week. Or I might have a particular area of practice I need to engage in, but I break it down into some aim I want to fulfill, which stretches me beyond my current ability, but I can achieve with practice. For example, practice the top line melody to On Green Dolphin Street to a metronome, starting at 50% of the tempo I need to perform it live. Stage 2, complete the Pomodoro. Set a timer for 25 minutes and engage in the task or practice the skill for that period without any distractions. Stage 3, record your progress. After the 25 minutes are up, stop working. Record your progress and note down areas in need of improvement. Stage 4, take a break. Take a 5-minute break where you take your mind off your work. Grab a coffee, grab a bite to eat, stretch, go for a walk, or just relax. Step 5, repeat steps 2 to 4 twice, followed by steps 2 to 3 once. The Pomodoro technique involves 4 blocks of 25-minute Pomodoros, followed by 5-minute breaks, and on the 4th time through, take a longer break. So, after step 5, step 6, take a longer break. After the 4th Pomodoro, take a break of 15 to 30 minutes, or longer if you need it. And as with the shorter breaks, use this time to take your mind off your work. Now, this process can be repeated for further rounds. You might do 3 or even 4 of those rounds in a day, which would yield 12 or 16 Pomodoros. I find that after 16 Pomodoros, after 12 it gets very hard. After 16, it's extremely hard. I find it's very exhausting after that long. But try and repeat it as many times as you like if you find that you're very productive using this method repeatedly over a day. The Pomodoro technique can be undertaken without any teaching or assistance from others. Now, this is important for reaching expertise as a result of deliberate practice and the level of expertise with which Rosenshine is concerned. As we saw in the quote on an earlier slide from Erickson, Priscilla, and Coakley, expertise as a result of deliberate practice requires a well-informed coach to guide you through deliberate practice and, most importantly, to help you learn how to coach yourself. Now, it's important to learn how to coach yourself so that you can learn, or rather continue to learn, and improve, or rather continue to improve, independently of anyone else, which has the benefit that you can continue to make progress in the absence of your coach, or for that matter, anyone else at all. That's what's called becoming an independent learner, or rather becoming an effective independent learner, where you can continue to learn and improve in a very effective way. Now, Rosenshine argues that independent practice is required for overlearning and automaticity, and indeed as teachers we should aim to reach this stage of practice with our students. Rosenshine writes the following, quote, "Students need extensive, successful, independent practice in order for skills and knowledge to become automatic." End quote. That's the third bullet point on the slide. At this stage, a learner no longer requires guidance, or for that matter, instruction or assistance to complete the tasks or practice the skill in question, or to recall prior learning in that area. So if it takes thousands of hours to reach expertise over a task or skill, which is, as we've seen, what the research suggests, indeed, not just a few thousands of hours, but around 10,000 hours, a decade of dedicated, deliberate practice. Well, if that's the case, then teachers shouldn't be expected to get their students to achieve expertise. Rather, our aim as teachers should be to help students on the path towards it. And according to Rosenshine, one of a teacher's roles is to help students reach the stage where they can learn and practice independently. This is part of, as we've seen, the learning process towards expertise. To become an expert, one needs to be able to independently learn effectively. So perhaps one of our aims as educators should be to help students reach the stage where they have gained mastery over particular tasks and skills and can engage in them independently and understand what they need to do to reach expertise. So our task as teachers is not to turn our students into experts, but to help guide them along the path towards becoming experts, a path that they can continue to walk along themselves after we've given them the initial guidance and got them to the stage of initial mastery and taught them how to continue to improve and learn independently in an effective way. Okay, so that's the end of this professional development session. I've included on the final slide references to the research I drew upon in this talk. And I believe that there is a link accompanying this PowerPoint to a blog post I've written for the Tony Little Centre on the areas discussed today. If you wish to look at that blog post, it's called "Don't Just Learn, Overlearn," and is available at searleresearch.com, the blog of the Tony Little Centre for Innovation and Research and Learning. So today we've covered how to develop independent learning skills and mastery of a skill. I'm John Beale, Researcher Resident at Eton College. Thank you very much for listening.